stuff, and NASA had actually liked my photo, and I had like no followers, right? It was just my personal friends and stuff.
How would you describe your journey from being an aerospace engineer to a business strategist and now science communicator?
Because I was gonna leave the industry. I like didn't think that there was anything else for me. I never expected this to happen. I was pretty depressed. I had like the post-graduation depression. Everyone would always like kind of joke around that if you liked school, you would not like your job and vice versa. Yes, the original story is maybe not what you might think it would be. I feel
Camille, I'm so glad to see you here today, and like honestly I didn't expect that we're going to be able to meet in Norway at some point, but this is incredible. So the first question that I have, what did bring you where you are today? Can you tell me the original story of Galactic Gal?
Yes, the original story is maybe not what you might think it would be. I feel like a lot of people that like start a social media or science communication platform or like any sort of like public career like acting like know that they want to go into that. But it was the beginning of COVID, so it was like May of 2020, and I was just sitting at home and I was really frustrated with all the lack of education out there because of COVID and everything, right? And I didn't know what to do with myself. I was also about a year out of college, about a year out of undergrad, and I was pretty depressed. I had like the post-graduation depression because I just didn't know what to do with my life. And so then SpaceX launched Demo 2 at the end of May of 2020. And I have always been like super excited to share with my friends all about space, even if they don't care about it. I'm like, you're gonna listen to me, like let me tell you how cool this is, right? And so I was like, you know what, like this is so important because it was the first time we had launched US astronauts from US soil since 2011. And so I posted about it on my personal Instagram, and it was public, and I used some hashtags just to like see what would happen.
It was a post because Reels were not.
No,
Reels were not even there, right?
No, yeah. So TikTok was becoming a thing, and I know a lot of other female science communicators like starting out on TikTok, but due to the nature of my job at the time, I actually wasn't allowed to use it. And so I started on Instagram, and again, it was just like for me to post and share with my friends how awesome this opportunity was and what SpaceX meant. And it blew up, and I actually just saw the other day when I was like scrolling back to like see my progress and stuff, and NASA had actually liked my photo, and I had like no followers, right? It was just my personal friends and stuff. And so from there, you know, I like gained some followers, and I was like, oh, what could I do with this? And so I started to think it like back to my childhood, and then kind of merging it with the current state of the world with the lack of education. Like the lack of access to education because no one could go to school and stuff, right? And so everyone was like sitting at home craving this, and I thought, okay, so growing up in like rural southeastern United States with no access to STEM education, especially space, I was like, you know, I could use social media and reach people where they are, on their phones, at home, all like, what am I supposed to do with my life right now because we are just sitting here bored at home. So that's how it started, honestly, and it just like blew up from there. And you know, I had some organic growth as I just continued to post about, and again, it was still just photos at the time, which was crazy, like looking back about how many things I would like.
The algorithms were so different.
They were so different. Yeah, I mean, everything changed, and so I was teaching myself all of this. At the same time, I was like, wait, I never expected this to happen.
Yeah. How would you describe your journey from being an aerospace engineer to business strategist and now science communicator?
Yeah, so I think it all happened honestly around the same time. So when I was in university, everyone would always like kind of joke around that if you liked school, you would not like your job and vice versa. And for me, I found that to be the most true thing that I was ever told, basically. Because I loved undergrad, and I graduated with the 4.0. I absolutely loved it. Wow. But then all my friends that hated school, they ended up really loving their jobs, and I found myself in jobs like in internships in college, and then also in my full-time job after school. I was just like, I don't like this. This is not for me. Like, I love the space industry and I love the technology, but like doing CAD all day is not for me. And like really doing the engineering, even though I was working on Orion for Artemis, like the coolest thing ever in my mind at that time, right? Like, and it was an amazing opportunity, but it like, I was doing CAD all day long and I didn't like it. And then I went on to do like mission operations and coding. So I tried a couple different things and I was like, oh my God, I like this. And so at the same time, that's when I started Galactic Gal. And I was like, I really like to talk to people and I like to educate and communicate. And I have this engineering background, so I feel like I can communicate the engineering, and that type of skill set is very unique, being able to like translate the technical data into something that business or marketing or the general public can understand. And so it was kind of at the same time, and I just worked with a mentor.
Found this intersection.
Yeah, and like worked with a mentor at the time because I was gonna leave the industry. I like didn't think that there was anything else for me. I thought that like to be in the industry, you basically just had to be an engineer, and then you would like find yourself in maybe finance roles or something, but like ultimately you were at your heart like an engineer. And so I was like, I think I am just gonna leave and do something else. And in college I had considered doing that. I literally considered going to just be a wedding planner because I love like the event planning and working with people like one-on-one, completely different than aerospace, right? So I thankfully had a really great mentor, and he's like, no, like there are so many other things that you can do in this industry, like let's figure out where you would fit in. And so we helped me move into business development, and then through my science communication I've been able to like hone some marketing skills, which then helps me with marketing in the industry as well.
So I see that your mentor had a huge impact on your life.
Yes.
So very interesting question to me, because like I love having mentors in different domains that are helping me, and I just want to hear your perspective, like in general, how important is to having a mentor.
It is like probably the most important thing from my experience. Like every really good thing and every really bad thing that I've been able to come out of has been like because of a mentor, right? In college, like all the internships I had were because I knew people that really believed in me and helped me get into those roles, and then helped me find the right fit. And then this particular mentor, like I don't know if I would be here. I have no idea if I would, and like I get chills talking about it because this is my calling, but I don't know if I would be here right now because if I didn't have him. And so I think that the power of mentors that are, a little bit older than you, a lot older than you, different genders, different fields, like completely outside of your industry, whatever, right? Like mentors are so important to your personal and professional development.
I think we can agree that we're super grateful to all our mentors
Yes.
out there. Let's take this moment. Recently, you've taken a new offer from Vast company, and this is super exciting to me as well. Like I started to observe them even more after I heard that you're having a new position there. Was it difficult for you to leave the Colorado and move to LA? Like completely, like take your life from there and like move it there. What was the main trigger to make such a decision?
Yeah, so first of all, it was very difficult. It was a very difficult decision. I mean, even like a month ago when all this was happening, I had never in a million years considered moving to LA. And that's an aerospace hub, but I had vehemently stayed away from it because I loved Colorado at the time. And I don't like traffic and all this stuff, right? All the bad things that LA, like people talk about with LA. And I had, I have friends and family and stuff like that in Colorado, and I love the mountains. I love skiing and hiking and camping and all that jazz, right? But I got this new offer at Vast, and to be a senior business development manager, and then also work with the president directly with marketing, and it was just something I couldn't turn down. Ultimately, it was difficult, but it wasn't that difficult, I'd say, because my heart really pulls me towards human spaceflight, and I just kind of go back to when I was 4 years old and like saw a space shuttle launch and was like, I want to be an astronaut, and just being fascinated with human spaceflight. And then all I ever wanted to do in college was work on Orion, and then I worked on that, but then my career took a little bit of a different turn, and I worked on some other things that were like enabling human spaceflight amongst other things, but it was an opportunity for me to go back to that and work on the first commercial space station. So ultimately it was, okay, let's go. Like, let's just do it, and I don't really shy away from challenge or change or opportunity. So here we are.
This was a very bold decision. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
I hope I can visit you in LA.
Yes, please come. Yes.
I have my US visa, so
okay,
I might do it soon. Camille, can you recall some of your transitional periods of time, like the key turning points that, like especially in the space field, that had a great impact on your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to what we've kind of talked about already with like Galactic Gal was a huge transition, business development was a huge transition, and then now, and another one that I didn't talk about yet is moving from a big aerospace prime to a startup.
From Lockheed Martin,
yes,
right?
Yeah. So moving from Lockheed to startups, that was a huge pivotal decision in my life because, you know, when I was in university, like startups really weren't a thing in the space industry. Like there were a couple, but then ever since I graduated, it's just like exponentially grown. So moving to a startup, I realized like that is definitely where I belong. I love the like smaller, more agile, faster development, that kind of thing. So that was a turning point, obviously moving to LA. But then like before that, you know, I kind of mentioned like growing up in rural North Carolina, I did not have access to STEM. And even though I had seen from a very far distance a space shuttle launch, I was always just bullied and teased as a kid for being a young girl who was really smart and liked STEM and like was in the gifted programs or whatever in school, right? And as an only child, like that sort of social interaction was incredibly important to me because I didn't have that like, you know, young child interaction at home. And so I really like shoved that all down and I kind of like hid that part of myself. And it's really sad now, and I know a lot of people do that, and like that's really why I have Galactic Gal to like help people not do that, because it's such a shame to us and to the world to not really show our passions and interests. And so I ended up actually becoming a professional trumpet player in high school. I went to a boarding school, like my own choice, world-renowned, prestigious arts conservatory for high school and college. And I went there for high school, and I literally, if you had asked me at 16 what I was going to do with my life, I would have told you I was going to be a professional trumpet player. And then a really pivotal moment was when I really got to know the dean of the high school program, an amazing woman, and she taught calculus. And here she was like at an art school. And I was like, wait a second, I can do both. This is crazy. And now I'm at this school that like everyone there was unique, and like your passions and your gifts were accepted and encouraged. And so I was like, oh, maybe I could do both. And so then I ended up at the University of Tennessee, where I was allowed to do both and actually encouraged to do that. So those were like some of the pivotal moments in my life and what I aim to bring to, you know, any conversation I have with the next generation on Galactic Gal, etc.
How old were you as you like had this moment, right, of understanding that I can do both?
I was probably 16 or 17.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
You were lucky. I think it's good to understand it at this age.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and like I mean, I just worked with Barbie and Boss Beauties the other day.
Yes.
And
oh my God! Like, please tell me more about this collaboration. This is so exciting.
Yeah. So Barbie and Boss Beauties, they're a leading Web3 brand. They collaborated to have these career conversations with a couple really powerful and inspirational women.
Role models.
Yeah, of which I was one, which is crazy. And so I was on...
I'm not surprised.
Well, I am.
No.
So I was on this Zoom call the other night, actually at midnight, because I had flown to Norway and we had a change of dates. And but I was like, I need to do this. And so I was on this call with like the founder of Boss Beauties and then the CEO of Mattel that owns Barbie, right? Yeah. And we were just chatting about how you can be everything. And like, you know, we often say you can be anything, but I really like the you can be everything better, because we really, really talked about like one of the other women who's actually on, she has a coconut water and milk brand, and then she's also on like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like all this stuff, right? And she's like, my daughter, I think she said she wanted to be like a chef and I don't know, a biologist or something, like completely opposite. And she's like, you can be both. You can do a biology during the day and you can be a chef at night or something, right? And I love that you can combine everything. And actually at this conference, we've been talking a lot about the intersection of climate and art. And so now I'm like getting chills again. Like I had this really huge revelation yesterday, like, whoa, the industry is changing and my artistic skills are like really valued now in the industry and like absolutely needed, whether it's music or art or dance or whatever, right?
Absolutely. And yesterday I really loved your poll that you made just like randomly, you know, to the audience. I think it was incredible, and really like you mentioned that you believe that actually it's important that space offers more, that space should expect more people from different domains, right? From different fields, professions. Why do you believe that?
Oh my gosh,
and were you surprised by the answers from the audience?
Yeah. So for everyone listening, I was on a panel yesterday about the importance of communicating about space. How can we do better, especially in the realm of climate change, as we're at a climate change conference.
You just mentioned about the Boss Beauty collaboration with Barbie. I think it was an incredible thing what they do, and actually I bought one of them. Like I bought the pack, the digital pack of 4 Barbies, and I'm like, please. I hope I can get an astronaut. And then guess what I got? So not an astronaut. Actually, 3 of them were like doctors. Like 2 of them were doctors, another one was a vet and an artist. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a doctor and I'm far away from being a vet, but with an artistic point of view, I can agree. So it was super cool.
I love that.
And yesterday, actually, you spoke at GNF, General Networking Forum. It was the panel on climate change communication. Can you first of all like summarize some of the main takeaways? The points that you believe are so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we were talking about how can space do better with communications, and the first time that anyone had ever spoken about this was a panel that I had the great fortune of being on at the Space Sustainability Summit last June in London. And so that was less than a year ago, and now we're at this conference having not only a huge panel with like fishbowl style everything, right, but also an entire track on communication and the social and whatever impacts of climate change and the space industry in regards to climate change. And so it's like, in less than a year, how much things have changed away from just pure technical stuff to how do we actually communicate to people, and how do we bring in art to help with that, right? And so we were talking about it, and I think, a couple of the big takeaways were exactly what I just said with art. So we talked about, like, how do we have all this data. I think NASA said something the other day about how they get 4 terabytes of data down from Earth observation satellites about climate change every day, or something absolutely ridiculous like that. How do we then, not only, we have the data analysts and the scientists, what do you do with it, right? And so they have all this data, and it's like, we have all this information about our planet. How do we not only like use it to make better informed decisions, but then also communicate it to the media, to policymakers, to any other third-party stakeholder outside of the industry who might not understand climate change as much as we do, or how space relates to climate change and how it's absolutely critical. And so I think, a big, huge takeaway for me was that we really need to bring in art and artists into this conversation. And so at the end of the panel, they were asking, like, what was your big takeaway and stuff. And so I looked around the room and I asked a couple questions, and I said, who in here is a graphic designer? Not a single person raised their hand. I'm not surprised, right? And then I asked, what about influencers? You raised your hand, and then I think one...
I knew that.
Yeah, and then I think one other person raised their hand, right? And then, of course, I was there. So, okay, 2 people, and what would you say? 100 people in the room, maybe 50 to 100 people? Yeah, like, not that many, right? These people, these influencers that are actively on social media communicating with the general public, why do we not have more of them here? I asked how many marketing and communications professionals were in the room, and I think 3 people raised their hands. And I think I asked one other one, I can't really remember, but the vast majority of the room were engineers or leadership in space companies. And it's like, I'm an engineer, I am not a graphic designer,
But where are those people that are going to translate
exactly
the expertise of all the people that we had in the room to the general public?
Exactly.
Right? And here is like, the bridge is missing, there is no bridge.
There is no bridge, right.
I mean, it's less than... Like I get chills as well, like less than 1% of people who are actually like bringing this further and doing the space outreach.
Yeah, and it's so important. When I was at Orbit Fab, we had an amazing graphic designer she made like the most incredible visuals that helped us tell the story of this really complicated, in space refueling, or how do we make propellant on the moon. That's a really complicated topic. and something that we need to be lobbying with Congress and we need to be talking to the media about it, all this stuff, right? And she made these really, really beautiful graphics to help us convey that story. And now at VAST, I'm actually hiring a graphic designer, and we got some incredible applications already. And it's like all these graphic designers, like the market is there. Like they want to come into the space industry, and we just need to do a better job of hiring them.
Exactly, and maybe also provide, like showing them that, hey guys, there is an opportunity.
Yes.
You know, like just highlighting this.
Yeah, so I mean, graphic designers, artists, we need people to paint about it, right? And you look at, okay, let's look at like astronomy. They do a really good job communicating to the public. Why? Because their photos are beautiful, right? Even if it's, I mean, any James Webb photo that comes out, it's all over CNN and BBC, like whatever, right? And it's even if the article has not a single ounce of scientific information, it's like, this is incredible and our universe is so vast and haha, pun intended, but like how do we take that same visual storytelling and bring it into aerospace and use that to communicate these really difficult topics?
Can social media help
Absolutely.
us with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, all of us that are talking about space online and, you know, we're using visual storytelling elements, right? We're doing videos, we're making photos, we're doing whatever, right? I can sort of do some graphic design on Canva, but like I am not a graphic designer, right? So we need to bring those people into the conversation. We need to bring, like I said, we need to bring artists to paint. And this conference has been amazing because we had not one, but two amazing singers yesterday come in, and it was just so inspirational.
At the gala dinner, right?
Yes, yeah. And it's like, even though that wasn't directly related to climate change, there's still a bridge there that we can find.
Yeah. So Camille, with your social media impact, every day you impact like so many people. I don't know, like few hundreds, thousand. I think you have 500,000 of followers, something across the social media, which is incredible. So I think also on your LinkedIn, you're one of the top voices of LinkedIn,
I am.
right? I recently noticed that. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. So how does a strong personal brand help you in your career?
Yeah. Well, I mean, anecdotally, I come here and I sit down at the gala dinner yesterday, and we're talking, you know, I was talking to the guy next to me. He goes, wait, actually, I've seen you before. And I said, yeah, probably like Galactic Gal. And he's like, oh, yes. And so it's like, as soon as I say Galactic Gal, most people are like, oh, I've at least seen you around, right? Even if I've never really like interacted with you on social media or whatever, I know of you. And so when I started social media with Galactic Gal, I was honestly like kind of embarrassed because I was like, there were not many of us, and there still aren't many of us doing it, and especially those of us like working in aerospace, and everyone's like, you're what? You're making TikToks? Like, you know, the older generation, like they don't always understand. But now it's like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, even just picking the name Galactic Gal with the alliteration, and like it's very memorable. A lot of people don't even know my real name.
Yeah, this is what I noticed as well. I'm like, I'm looking for Camille. Which Camille? The Galactic Gal. Ah, I saw her there.
Yeah, exactly.
So like,
yeah, and so a name like that, and you don't have to have a name like that, but it's like the personal brand that I have built, and it's a brand, right? So it's marketing. It's like my color scheme, my logo, like all this stuff, right? You bring it in, and not everyone has to do that, right? That's a very extreme case of personal branding. Not everyone needs to be an influencer or anything like that to like make yourself known in the industry, but like putting yourself out there, right? And like getting your name known and talking to everyone and making a real impression on people. And really advocating for yourself and showing people what you can bring to the table, no matter how young or old or whatever you are. That is so important to helping you get opportunities. And I mean, I go to all these conferences and I'm like, hey, I know you, I built this relationship with you, and I've only been in the industry for like 4 years now, right? And it's like, there are a lot of people that have been in it for 20 that are like, how do you do it? And I'm like, you just advocate for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, like there is this perception about personal branding, especially in the scientific like communities, right? Like space, for example. People first think when they hear about it, they first think, isn't it self-promotional? Mm-hmm. And then when I explain to them, well, it's basically you're a talented space professional. but you work from your, I don't know, from your room,
Mhm.
right? And no matter what projects you create, or from your garage, right? Like it's an extreme case from Silicon Valley kind of vibe. So you work in your garage on this fascinating project, but nobody knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you need personal brand or a certain visibility to just highlight your expertise, highlight your work, highlight your talents.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you're just like showing that you are there.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And like the basic thing you can do is LinkedIn, even on LinkedIn, right? Like that is the easiest way, right? Because that is a professional network where people are sharing their expertise and their experiences. And you don't need to be a LinkedIn top voice, right? You just post and like your network will expand over time. And I think it honestly comes down to everything we've been talking about with communication and bringing in that like artistic side. And a lot of us in the industry do have that artistic side, but because, you know.
Is it hidden?
Yes, I think it is. I think it's
Do you
totally
feel that
hidden.
people are a bit like being shy, or maybe are a bit, you know,
Yeah.
not being open enough to share this artistic side? Maybe
Absolutely.
they think about like wrong impression or other people opinions that people will not like. Hey, you're an engineer. Why are you trying to do this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Or like, you know, as engineers, we were just talking about this yesterday, as scientists and engineers, we really care about the perception of our peers, right? For us, we care about their validation and putting it, like, we're all, as scientists and engineers, a lot of us are like deeply ingrained in factual, like, you basically, like, it's not subjective at all, right? It's objective, like 2 + 2 = 4. But art is very subjective, or any way that you like communicate or whatever, right? It's all subjective, and so that opens up a lot of doors for people to judge you, and that can be very, very scary.
If there is a duality, then actually this attracts even more attention,
It does.
and then the right people also see you, and then like you just
And
get an opportunity.
Yeah, and I also think that, I mean, it's deeply ingrained in society and like how we have been raised as scientists and engineers or whatever STEM career, right? It's like, you are STEM, you are not an artist, or you are an artist, you cannot be in STEM, right? And so that intersection when I was in high school was very, very profound for me. And you know, we look at Einstein, who's a great violinist, right? Or Da Vinci, like, oh my gosh, right? It's deeply ingrained, and using both sides of our brain, like, why not? Why would you not do that?
And I think
You know?
our community, space community, is improving on that.
Yeah, and I see it here.
Even here, really, like yesterday at the session. But I think that we have to thank also a lot of young people who are bringing up that there is something else out there, not just one domain.
Yeah, you can be everything.
You can be everything. You can be both. And last question: what visibility tips can you give to space professionals?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned this before.
You mentioned with LinkedIn,
but I think LinkedIn is really like, I think a lot of people, when I talk to them, they're like, oh, I could never be on Instagram. I could never make TikTok videos. You don't need to do that, right? If you want to, great, but that's not a requirement. That's just something that I like to do or whatever, right? And so I think LinkedIn is a really, really powerful tool to build your network, connect with people on LinkedIn, talk about what you're doing. If you wrote a paper, even if you didn't publish it, please put it on LinkedIn. Somebody will read it. If you only get 1 like, it's okay. You got 1 like, right? Even if you get 0 likes, it's okay because you're putting yourself out there.
I believe that your audience will always find you.
Yes, they will. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Yeah, no, absolutely. And use, you know, play around with different things, right? That's the beauty of social media is like that, is you can try a bunch of different things and it's not really going to fail, right? It's not like you spent, I don't know, 80 hours on a paper and then no one reads it, right? So, but even then, exactly, like your audience will find you, and I believe that at least 1% will see anything you do.
Thank you, Camille,
Thank
for
you.
such an honest conversation. It was incredible, and I think this is the right moment to
Yes.
to finish it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It was great
Thank
talking
you.
to you.